Welcome back, guys. Let's continue with our session two. And the topic is evaluate solutions. Now, the learning outcomes for session two. Number one, we've got the evaluation identifies possible solutions to the problem by using a range of problem solving techniques. Number two, we've got the evaluation establishes criteria for evaluating solutions to match the type of the problem. And number three, the possible solutions are evaluated against established criteria. And number four, the evaluation ensures that solutions are selected to meet established criteria and the problem requirements. Uh, your resources and strengths. The most important aspect of any problem solving strategies is to look at your resources for solving the problems. Number one, what parts of your role as a partner, a colleague, employee, employer are working well? What exactly are you doing that makes it work well? What skills and resources do you use in your spare time and at work? What are your achievements? This could be large one-offs or everyday or small ones. For example, passing your driver's test, getting your PhD, or cooking a meal. Who has solved a similar problem before? How did they do it? Who can help or advise you whilst staying objective? Who can support and encourage you while staying objective? What would you consider to be life's little threats, e.g., a hot bath, first treats, a hot bath, taking a hot bath, first flowers in spring, looking at art, reading an inspiring book, and etc. It's vital to be aware of the things you consider to be treats when you want to recharge your energy. Beyond the problem, what would you be doing, concentrating on if you didn't have the problem? How exactly would you or the situation be different? And what would your friends or family or colleagues notice about you or the solution or the situation? What would happen if you just ignored the problem? Could you view the present situation, although clearly not ideal, as an alternative solution? Are there any possible benefits to the solution, or can you make any changes without having to solve the problem first? How would you ideally like it to end, and what small steps can you take towards an eventual solution or part-time solution? And what can you do today that will make a difference tomorrow? And are there any other opportunities to turn a negative into a positive? And what will you settle for if all else fails? Developing or weighing alternatives. Look at your problems in different ways. Find a new perspective that you haven't thought of before. Brainstorming or rapid noting of alternatives, no matter how silly, is an excellent discovery process. Once you have listed or mapped the alternatives, be open to their possibilities. Make notes on those that need more information, are new solutions and can be combined or eliminated, will meet oppositions and seem promising or exciting. Weigh alternatives. After listing possible alternatives, evaluate them without prejudice, no matter how appealing or distasteful. Consider all criteria. While a suitable solution may solve the problem, it may not work if resources aren't available, if people won't accept it, or if it causes new problems. You firstly need to brainstorm and be openness and develop an alternatives. Identify the important criteria and identify advantages and constraints. Weigh those alternatives, evaluate and prioritize. Select the best alternatives, and from those selecting, the best will be suitable, feasible, and flexible. So select the best alternative. Don't consider any alternative as perfect solution. If there were probably wouldn't be a problem in the first place. Consider your intuition or inner feelings in deciding on a course of action. Return to your trusted outsider. Is there something you've missed? Does he or she see a problem with your solution? Compromise. Consider compromise when you have a full grasp of the problem and your alternatives. Competing solutions may yield a hybrid solution. Technique in weighing alternatives. We've got an analytical hierarchy matrix. We've got alternative A, B, C, and D. And then in rows, alternative A has a row sum of 0, alternative B has a row sum of 2, and alternative C is a row sum of 3, and alternative D has a row sum of 1, and it's ranked number 4, 2, first, and third. So Thomas Sutti's analytical hierarchy matrix lists alternatives in columns and rows as depicted in the matrix above, stating with alternative A, go across columns in the matrix and rate each alternative against all others. When the alternative under consideration has more than value than the others, then give the more valuable alternative score of 1. When the alternative has less value than the others, give the less value alternative a score of 0. Add the scores for each row alternative. Highest score is the highest rated alternative according to the criteria you used. In the matrix above, alternative C scores highest, so it's the highest rated alternative. So the SFF matrix: suitability, feasibility, and flexibility. Suitability refers to the alternative itself, whether it is ethical or practical. Is it appropriate in scale or importance? An adequate response or too extreme? Feasibility refers to how many resources will be needed to solve the problem, i.e., is it affordable? How likely will it solve the problem? And flexibility refers to your ability to respond to unintended consequences or openness to new possibilities. The alternative itself and whether you can control outcomes once you begin. Total a score for each alternative. Compare, prioritize your alternatives. Blank pros and cons decision making template. You should be able to cut and paste this template into a text editor or a spreadsheet. Add more rows as required. This is just a diagram of the pros and cons decision making template. Uh, Adaptive decision making. Adaptive techniques for solving problems are a combination of logic and common sense, and while not precise, can produce satisfactory solutions. If you cannot follow the complete problem solving processes, use these techniques when you have a little time for research, don't need exhaustive analysis, can accept the risk, and can make reversible decisions. Strategies toward adaptive decision making: managing by exception text. Work on matters critical to you. Leave off matters that are not. Strategizing and prioritizing. Example: your tutor you tutor a child in math. You become aware that the family situation is troubled, but you haven't the skills to help. You inform the case manager for their action, but continue to focus on the supporting the child with his or her homework. Decisions staggering. Make incremental decisions to achieve an objective and avoid total commitment to a decision you cannot change. Example: before installing an air conditioner, try screens, shades, and fans. These alone may do the job. If not, these improvements will still have help cool the building and increase air conditioning efficiency if later installed. Exploration. Use information available to probe for a solution. Exploring a modified trial and error strategy to manage risk. Unlike a throw of dice, however, it requires a firm sense of purpose and direction. Use this technique to move cautiously in small steps toward a solution. Example: doctors avoid committing to a single incomplete diagnosis of an illness. Although tentative but precise exploration, they determine the cause of an illness and its cure. Hedging. Spread the risk by avoiding decisions that lock you into a single choice if you are not prepared to commit. Example: astute investors don't put all their eggs in one basket. They spread the risk with a balanced portfolio of stocks, bonds, and cash. Intuition create options based on your experience, values, and emotions, your gut feelings, and your heart. While often able to arrive at the truth through intuition, don't rely on it exclusively. It can trigger snap judgments and rash decisions. Use logic first, then your intuition to make the decisions feel right. Delay. Go slow or postpone committing yourself to a course of action if an immediate decision isn't necessary and there is time to develop options. Sometimes doing nothing is the best decisions. The problem will either go away, conditions will change, the path may become clearer as you reflect on it, or events will change the problem itself. Delegating decisions making or action to another person or group. Sometimes we take on problems that are not ours, or that the problem can be solved better by someone else. One strategy towards delegation is to identify stakeholders of the problem. A stakeholder is a person or a group that interest in or will be affected by a resolution of the problem. This is a good practice for all decision making. Another consideration for outsourcing a problem's resolution is to consider if your resources will be adequate to the task. Resources are time, money, skills, confidence, and etc. Visioning. Focus on the future to uncover hidden opportunities and options that may resolve the problem. With options, we make better decisions. Without them, decisions become forced choices. By finding tomorrow's opportunities and developing options, you can make enduring or quality decisions. Barriers to affect decision making: indecision, avoiding the decision to escape the unpleasant aspect of risk, fear, and anxiety; stalling, refusing to face the issues; obsessive gathering of endless facts; overreacting, letting a situation spin out of control, letting emotions take control; vacillating, revising decisions half-heartedly, committing to a course of action. Summary: generate a possible solution. This during this stage, the goal is to generate as many possible solutions as you can. Do not worry about whether or not they are realistic, practical, or effective. Frequently, a solution you might eliminate initially with work can be developed into a very effective solution. It can be very helpful to ask yourself what you have done in the past when faced with similar problems and how people you know have dealt with similar situations. In addition, you can also approach friends, family, or counselor, teachers, books, or the internet, etc., to obtain ideas for solutions. Be sure to write down all the possibilities you generate so that you can approach this task systematically. Analyze the solution. During this stage, you'll examine each alternative and write down both the advantages and disadvantages to each. Some considerations to keep in mind include: is it relevant to my solution? Is it realistic? Is it manageable? What are the consequences, both good and bad? What is it likelihood that it is going to help me reach my goal? So we have done with our session. So we'll continue further with our session 3. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you'll be ready for our session 3.